This video is sponsored by Paperlike. It's a rainy, cold, depressing day in New York City, but guess what we just got? The new iPad Air. Oh, this is exciting. Let's unbox it. This is the new iPad Air. It's starting at $599. This is the color Sky Blue, and it's just a huge refresh for the iPad Air line across the board. Now, the Air sits about in the middle. There's the normal $329 iPad, there's the iPad Air, and then the iPad Pros. You guys know I have been enjoying, usually it just bloops. It's not blooping. Sarah, don't you do this for a living? Ooh, that new iPad Air smell. Anyways, you guys know I have been obsessed with my iPad Pro, the 11-inch, which this is actually the same exact form factor, a little bit smaller of a display, 10.9 inch instead of 11. Ooh, the sky blue is subtle. It's very nice though. The flattened edges, just like the new iPhone 12s. And let's fire this guy up. Ooh, there we go. This is my 2020 iPad Pro 11-inch. The 11-inch iPad Pro starts at $799 and this new iPad Air starts at $599. This has the new fancy A14 Bionic chip. Oh, so cool, right? It must be better than the A12Z because it's a higher number. Well, that's something that I'm gonna talk about in this video because that's not really true. I mentioned that in a previous iPad video, but can you tell that there's some similarities? Yeah, actually it's the same size, which means the Magic Keyboard that works for the 11-inch iPad Pro also works with the new iPad Air. See? The magnetic Apple keyboard that basically just snaps into place. I'm not doing it very gracefully. But I actually did end up buying the Magic Keyboard for my 11-inch Pro just because it really does turn your iPad more into a laptop. So the biggest physical difference is obviously we have the dual camera setup on the iPad Pro with a LiDAR sensor, and here we just have the 12 megapixel back camera. And I'm transferring my data right now, but as you can tell, the bezels on the new iPad Air are slightly larger than the iPad Pro. And that's because, well, this just has a little bit bigger display. And the new iPad Air doesn't have Face ID where you can just log in via your face. And so it has this new power button up at the top where this is now where Touch ID is. And that's how you're gonna log in with your fingerprint up there. So let's see what else is in the box. Of course, you got the literature, the stickers, 20-watt USB-C power brick. Thank goodness they included it in this box. And then a USB-C to USB-C power cable to charge the iPad. The iPad Air comes in 5 different colors: sky blue, green, rose gold, space gray, and silver. And then also they have some new colors in the Smart Folio cases. Ooh, so we got that blue on blue action. Although I would just hate to cover up the color, that's not fun. But I understand you don't want to scratch it, right? That's clean. That is clean. Love the straight lines. Okay, so I'm gonna wait for all of my apps to transfer over to this new iPad Air. I love the blue finish. While we wait for that, thank you so much Paperlike for sponsoring this video. Paperlike is so much more than a screen protector. So yes, it protects your iPad display with a beautiful matte finish. It's also anti-glare, but most importantly, when you're writing on your iPad with an Apple Pencil, it literally feels like you're writing on paper. So it's just like a nostalgic but very satisfying feel when you're writing notes, or if you're an artist and you're sketching in Procreate or any other drawing app. I use my iPad for note-taking all of the time, and guys, it just makes the iPad so much more fun and satisfying. How many times have I said that already? I love it. It's very ASMR-y too. You guys have seen Paperlike on my iPad Pro already in all of my iPad videos. It makes writing and sketching with the Apple Pencil a joy. Paperlike comes in many different iPad sizes, so check out my link in the description below. Okay, back to the new iPad Air. Because the only thing that trips up the $329 iPad is when I screen record while doing creative tasks. I decided to do that with the Air. So from photo editing in Lightroom and VSCO, planning videos in OneNote and Notion and Chrome, sketching in Procreate, all of them did great without skipping a beat. The biggest shocker was actually video editing in LumaFusion. I brought in some 4K clips and a few 1080 ones from the Canon R5 and also the Sony a7S III, and the timeline was shuffling through this footage like butter, which is interesting because sometimes my computer can't handle the Sony a7S III footage. When it comes to the Geekbench score, the Air versus the Pro 11, the Air actually comes out on top on the CPU score, which, I mean, bravo for Apple not holding back. Now, when it comes to multitasking and just sheer power from the amount of cores, the Pro 11-inch will still come out on top for a lot of the tasks that you're gonna do, but still super impressive, and I actually talked about this in the last video. So the A12Z with the 8-core CPU and the 8-core GPU respectively is more than the 6-core CPU and 4-core GPU in the new iPad Air. One thing I will say for the people who Zoom and FaceTime a lot on the iPad, I'm only using that selfie camera when it's attached to a keyboard, so I would just really love that camera to be on top instead of awkwardly on the left side. Okay, so the first test I did was actually a battery test. Ooh, do you guys like this new lens? I'm actually enjoying it a lot. I'm just borrowing it, but maybe I need to buy it. It's the Sony 20mm f1.8. It's light, it's really easy to vlog with, self-film. Ooh, it might be just a deadly pairing on this a7S III. Do you guys like it? Do I need to buy it? I dedicated today to just using both of these equally. So I started out my day, I watched like 2 to 3 hours of content in between Hulu and YouTube. You know, I had to watch multiple hours of One Tree Hill for this video. I was being productive. Anyways, I used these iPads from like 12:30 to now, which is 8:30 p.m. I did a lot of like watching of entertainment, productivity apps. I had Notion and my notes app pulled up. I was scrolling the web, I was text messaging people, so a good deal of normal tablet use. And for the first 40% of the battery, the Air actually wasn't trailing by that much. It was still like 2 or 3% behind the Pro, but where it really took the dip is when I attached the Magic Keyboards for the rest of the, 50 to 60%. But after a little over 5 hours of screen time on each of these iPads, the Pro was at 15% and the Air was at 3%. So the iPad Pro 11-inch beat the new iPad Air in terms of battery life when it comes to watching things, surfing the web, twittering, productivity apps, all kinds of things. So yeah, that was a little weird. I expected the Air to be better because, it doesn't have the Pro Motion display like the Pro. But yeah, maybe it would be a more meaningful experience to compare the battery life of a previous iPad Air to the new Air. It was just more significant for me to test alongside the iPad Pro 11-inch because that battery to begin with just isn't the best. So excuse the scene change here. I'm in a random hotel in the mountains, but before we wrap things up, I give my final thoughts. The most pressing question that I have to ask you, I just have to. Have you smashed that subscribe button yet? The channel's doing awesome. You guys are enjoying the videos. Thank you so much for watching, but have you subscribed? I'll wait, I got time. Okay, so final thoughts. The iPad Air, I'm impressed. Ever since this design came out with the newer iPad Pros, the iPad Air has kind of just been the weirdo in the middle. You had the iPad, the $309 iPad, that was really good value. Only 300 bucks? Heck yes, it can do all of the iPad things for you. Entertainment, productivity, light content creation, boom, that makes sense. And the iPad Pro, just a beast. And then the iPad Air kind of just sat there with the old design and it was so uninspiring. And that actually is a big part of creative tools, at least for me. It matters if when you're holding it, you feel inspired to do work or to create. And the iPad Air for a while just seemed kind of dated and not fun at all. So Apple did a great job with this line. I love the colors. It has a lot of the same power as the iPad Pro. And now I think one of the biggest reasons to go for the iPad Pro is to just get that 12.9-inch display. display if you want the bigger size. Probably 8 times out of 10, I'm going to recommend the Air to a person over the 11-inch iPad Pro. With that said, a few caveats. You don't miss Face ID until you go without it. Remember when we switched to Face ID from Touch ID and we were like, oh no, we love Touch ID, don't go. Well, let me tell you, Face ID is so quick and convenient, and when it becomes a part of your life, you don't even think about it. Go from Face ID to Touch ID, it's actually a process. And you know, sometimes I don't get it right every single time. It'll say, nope, rest to open, because I lift up my finger too quick and it has to remind me, rest on it. Okay, so it kind of takes a minute to get used to that. And if you use the iPad a lot where it's flush against a table, where it's sitting flat, maybe you're using the Apple Pencil, in those cases, Face ID is just so much more convenient, because remember, you're not just using it for unlocking your iPad, but if you use something like a password manager, I use LastPass, it is going to ask for that Face ID or Touch ID to enter in a password to every time you need that for a website. It's not the end of the world to have to, you know, Touch ID every time you want to unlock a password or something like that. It's just Face ID is more convenient. But yeah, I think this is going to be a beast of not just a tablet, but a computer for a lot of students, for people who like to write notes, illustrators. The Apple Pencil is a big part of your workflow. And remember, the Apple Pencil is as relevant as ever with the new feature Scribble, where you can basically use your Apple Pencil on any app and all of the places on your iPad. So this is a very welcome addition to the iPad family, and the iPad gets really powerful once you start adding the accessories, the Apple Pencil, maybe the Magic Keyboard, or a third party like the Logitech, where you can have an actual trackpad for your iPad to use more like a laptop. That's when this gets really, really powerful. And because the price is starting $200 less than the Pro, adding those accessories is going to hurt a little bit less, and I think is going to be a really powerful setup for you guys. So let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this video, and let me know what you think. Thank you so much, Paperlike, for sponsoring this video, and make sure to check out that link in the description below. It just makes using the Apple Pencil so much fun. Such a great experience for you illustrators, you note takers who enjoy writing on paper, but hey, want that power of an iPad. So stick around, lots of videos to come, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay peachy. Okay, bye.